30 Odd Minutes is sponsored in part by Digital Dowsing. Who are you powered by?
For the next 30 minutes, we will explore the unexplained. From mysteries beyond our galaxy to ghostly phenomena in our own backyard. We will dive into our psychic abilities and explore everything from conspiracies to the just plain weird. Welcome to 30 Odd Minutes. If the truth is out there, we will find it. But only by sheer accident.
Whoa! Oh, man.
Once again.
Yeah, that was any landing you can sit up from. Where are we?
Well, that's the Aurora Borealis, so we got to be somewhere up north.
That's beautiful. Engine room. Damage report. What's going on?
Yeah, we got some damage. I think we're going to need a quantum mechanic.
Do we have AAA?
Alien aircraft assistance? On this heap? Of course.
Oh, you better call them.
On my way.
All right. Thanks, Matt. We'll check back in with them.
They always take an hour, though, don't
they? Do. They take an hour, but we have 30 minutes. We'll be fine. Andrew, how have you been?
I could be better, I guess.
Really?
Yeah, just things don't seem like they're going right.
Do you think maybe it's your fault? Maybe it's your own outlook?
I never really thought of it like that.
Well, you've come to the right spaceship tonight, my friend, because we're going to be talking about how to change that outlook, maybe even the reality around you.
Really?
Think about it. Success. What would that be like? I have no idea.
No, I have no idea.
I have no idea either.
No.
I'm hoping to learn, though.
But I am, too.
But if you could change your outlook, change the world around you, what would it look like? Maybe see yourself in different dimensions? Dr. Dreck did. Take a look.
Greetings, oddballs. Dr. Dreck here. We're talking about alternate realities, the multi-universe, and I was thinking, well, there must be a whole bunch of me's around. So while I've been here in the lab, I have homemade my own little dimensional viewer. And I'm going to see what the other me's are doing. Maybe they're better off than I am, and I can go over to their reality. So here's the first one. Oh, hi, Dr. Dreck. Hi, other Dr. Dreck. I'm on a show called 28 Weird Minutes with John Dillinger as the host. Well, sorry. He's not better off than I am. He's worse off. I'll dial in another one. Here's another one. Hi, other Dr. Dreck. I'm on a show called Really Freaky Minute. They give me a whole 5 seconds to say something. All right, once more. I'll give it one more try. How about this guy?
Hey, other Dr. Dreck. Hey, you get some spare change?
Okay. I guess I'm better off where I am. Well, there's no place like home.
Sometimes your own reality's the best.
Yeah, I kind of always thought that about Dreck. He's better off right here in the hold.
I love him so much. All right, let's get to this. Have you ever been running late and wished you could slow down time? Have you ever thought maybe a black cloud was hanging over your head and everything was going wrong? Maybe it's all your fault, Andrew. Maybe it's all your fault at home. What if you had the power to change and control the reality around you? Tonight's guest is here to tell you it's possible. And before you start thinking it's just some new age mumbo-jumbo, check out our guest's background. She has a degree in physics, an MBA, and is a Doctor of Divinity. She's authored numerous books, including Quantum Jumps, which we'll be discussing tonight, and she'll tell us her own stories of altering reality, including time. Please welcome, beaming to us live from Berkeley, California, Cynthia Sue Larson.
Hey, Cynthia.
Good to have you here, Cynthia.
Welcome
How are you?
Aboard.
Greetings. Live long and prosper.
This is your first time on a spaceship, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. But I'm glad to be here.
Well, thank you. Thank you for joining us. Spaceships, this machine runs on hopes, dreams, bubblegum duct tape, and some quantum something somewhere or other. But let's start with energy itself. I've heard you talk about how everything is energy. What do you mean by that?
Well, that's exactly what I do mean by that. When we look to the quantum realm to see what the tiniest building blocks of reality are, that's where we start noticing that when you get small enough to the indivisible level, which is the definition of quantum, it means you can't divide it any smaller. When you get to a photon, that's it. There's no little half photons. And same thing is true with electrons. So when you get down to that tiny realm, these quantum particles, sometimes you see them, sometimes you don't. And when you don't, then they're in a pure energy state. But they behave very much like waves. And what I like to explain to people is that it's possible to witness macroscopic quantum dynamics. In other words, some of the spooky action at a distance and behaviors of quantum particles can be acknowledged in our everyday life, which is why we get things like synchronicities and coincidences and spontaneous remission of disease. This is why the placebo effect works, and so on and so forth.
So we're talking about mind over matter, right? I mean, that's what the placebo effect's all about. Your mind thinks you're healed, and your body follows suit, right? I mean, but does this work in every part of our life?
It actually does, and you can think of it as the science of faking it till you make it, and we're now noticing that that is being proven to be true in the field of embodied cognition, which is being studied at Harvard University. So absolutely true. There are things we can do that can reduce the amount of stress hormones you're feeling, the cortisone, and increase the good testosterone, the confidence-boosting types of chemicals in your body. And it could be something as simple as just something you do for a couple of moments. Like you just put your hands behind your head like this. That's a power pose. This is that practice of embodied cognition. You can do this before you go into a room to give a talk or a meeting or a presentation. You can do it before you go into traffic court or whatever it is that you need a little extra confidence for.
Would it be good to face the judge doing this?
Yeah.
Your Honor? No, just before you go into the court.
Exactly. And the effects can last for up to an hour or more. And it's just something you can do in private. You could do it before you're even around anybody. And the effects are quite lasting. So that's just one of many power poses. There's an illustration in my book that shows several of these power poses, such as kicking your feet up on a desk, putting your hands on a desk and leaning over it, stretching one arm out, and putting your hands on your hips. These are all power poses.
I've struck a few of those power poses. The feet on the desk thing, I'm all over that. Okay, so Cynthia, I know you're on Facebook. And
yes.
I actually think Facebook is so relevant to what we're talking about. We all have our news feed from all of our friends. And we've got those friends where they live in a nice house, they have cars and jobs and healthy kids, and everything is horribly wrong. You know, I got a flat tire, my lunch was cold, it was supposed to be hot, and woe is me, I got a paper cut. And then we have those friends where everything is just so good. I block both of them. I call those the outliers. So I've removed them both.
I don't want to know your good news.
Life isn't that rosy and it's not that horrible. Show me everything down the middle is what I say. But Cynthia, what would you say to these folks that are saying their lives are so horrible? And it's been going on for years. I've been watching the feed. Some of these people I've known for decades.
They never have a good day.
Never have a good day. Are they making their own outcome a reality?
In a lot of cases, I would say they are, actually, because you can ask the question such as, what's next when two things go wrong? And you may have heard this a lot where people say, well, first my car got broken into, then, something got stolen. Now what? And they're actually looking for the third thing to go wrong. Instead of asking questions like that, I like to ask, how good can it get? So you can find something good to look at. This is why humor works so well, which is what your show is so good at doing, getting people to smile, to laugh. And I think finding that humor is that middle ground so that you recognize, okay, things are kind of going wrong, but if you look at it just right, it's kind of funny. And that's a good thing to be able to do, to laugh at yourself, because then you're easier to be around, and your posts are not going to get blocked on Facebook.
I know. And that's really what we want in life, right? Yeah. Just don't block my post, for sure. All right, I want to talk about time, because I think time is something that all of us obsess with to one degree or another. Whether you're running late all the time or or whatever, how do we control time? Because time, we know, it's not a force in the universe, it's a concept. And 24 hours in a day is only here on Earth, It's so, Cynthia, how do we use this idea to control something that seems as immovable as time?
Actually, a lot of people have experiences of controlling time, and it's when they get into a meditative state. I have a website, realityshifters.com, and over the last 15 years, some of the most common reports of reality shifts when things appear, disappear, transform, and transport, as well as changes in the experience of time, they definitely have to do with time, specifically traveling farther in less time. And so I've gotten dozens of reports, not quite hundreds, but getting there, of people who are traveling on a road and they're just driving along, minding their own business, but they get into that meditative highway, that meditation state. Hopefully they're still safe to drive, but at some point they notice that they've traveled, for example, hundreds of miles in a very short amount of time. And so they check their clock and they get to their destination in just a very short time, like just 2 hours instead of 8 hours, for example. And this happens a lot. And it's not exactly a missing time phenomenon, like they got abducted or anything. It's much more that they're just in the groove, singing along to music or what have you. The next thing they know, they've arrived at their destination. And another version of this is when people are running late and there's no way they could possibly get to their appointment on time, but they really need to. And somehow along the way, they just meditate and they get there exactly on time, although technically that was impossible. There's no way it could have happened. These are examples of what I would call quantum jumps.
It's funny you bring this up because a friend of mine just a week ago told me a story about where he was late to the airport, like hopelessly late. A friend was driving him, and he just focused and slowed the time down and asked for his travel to go quicker and smoother. And he did. Yes. Somehow he got to the airport. Even the guy who drove him was like, wow, I don't know how the heck we just did that, but I got you here on time. And he smoothly got on the plane and sat down, and the plane took off. And he just thanked the universe for helping work with him.
So give us an example, Cynthia, where you went through something like this, where we're actually talking about time shifts, where we're talking about this quantum jump that your book's about, where you went through it.
Well, I've had several experiences of traveling farther in less time, when getting to some place I needed to get to just in time. That's pretty common. But a couple of times I've seen time actually come to a stop, and that's extraordinary. And the first time I really paid close attention to it, I was walking through a train station in Switzerland, and my daughter was on the shoulders of her father, hanging on to his hair. That's where her hands were. And he was holding on to suitcases. So she let go of his hair and just started falling backwards. She's in front of me several paces ahead, and she's about to do just a head-first nosedive onto the marble floor of the train station in Lausanne, Switzerland. So this is where I noticed that time actually did slow to a stop, and it sounds different. So if you hear background sounds, usually you don't notice it, but it's the pitch of high heels on marble, for example, in the train station. So that's kind of going click, 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 and then it started going really low, and everything got really low in volume. For some reason, I could keep moving at a regular speed and fast enough to catch my daughter as she was coming down. That was really remarkable. So I really felt like, and I could see it, that time stopped. It just slowed way down until I was able to safely catch my daughter. So we are definitely beings of consciousness, much more than we are our physical bodies. That's my takeaway, and that we can really play with space and time at levels that most of us are not really consciously aware that we're able to control.
Do you think...
And I'm not sure it's in our conscious control, but it's something we can access, especially when we need to.
So do you think when people experience deja vu, that this is getting into this realm?
Good question.
Yes. That's a great question. And in my book, I talk about lucid dreaming, near-death experiences, and deja vu is definitely an indicator that you're getting access to what you might think of as future memories or other possible realities that you have access to when you're in that dream state, and you can then revisit when you start living through it again. So it's pretty amazing that we can sometimes go into the lucid dreaming experience and have access to possible realities.
Right.
And this is something I discuss in Quantum Jumps, the book, just how you can get into this conscious experience of choosing a reality.
Right.
And dreaming is one of the best ways to go.
What about deja vu? Do you think people who experience that are... Wait a minute. That was weird. I think I just had it myself.
Didn't we just ask that question?
We think we just asked that question.
Wow, that was weird.
That was totally weird. All right, Cynthia, we got to regroup. We have to take a quick break for the news. We're going to come right back. We're going to talk more about quantum jumps and extraordinary science of happiness and prosperity with Cynthia Sue Larson. Be right back.
We have another interesting report of the Fae folk in Great Britain, but this time it's a troll. Cryptozoology News has posted this story, which came to them from a young man who wishes to remain anonymous. Apparently, the witness is a college student who was taking a train back to London after visiting his parents in the south of England. This sighting took place in the month of February 2014, when that part of the country was dealing with horrible flood conditions. The witness said that he had fallen asleep for a short while, but woke up just before sunset to find the train was moving slowly through a flooded area. When he looked out the window, he said he saw a 3-meter-tall fat bloke running through the soggy fields. As the figure got close to the slow-moving train, he could see that it wasn't a human being because the creature was hairy and had wolf-like ears as well as small horns. The witness claims that the few other passengers traveling in the same train car saw this troll as well. They all lost sight of the strange beastie when the train began picking up speed and left the flooded area. A troll trying to jump a train? What's next? A leprechaun pulling a dine and dash at Denny's? I'm Andrew Lake, and oddly enough, that's the news.
And we're back talking about quantum jumps with Cynthia Sue Larson. Cynthia, Andrew in our chat room, and if you're watching live at 30oddminutes.com, you can jump in the chat room and join the discussion. Andrew Richburg wants to know, are what we talking about kind of like the laws of attraction? He, of course, brought up the movie that we all love, What the Bleep Do We Know, which gets into a lot of this kind of stuff. Is this what you're talking about, the laws of attraction, that two things are willing themselves closer to each other?
Well, there's a certain similarity there, but when I talk about quantum jumping, I'm actually talking about us constantly moving into other universes of possibility, that this is actually the way that we navigate our lives, and it's the way of nature. So even something like photosynthesis, where plants are taking photons and solving the equivalent of a rush hour traffic problem through New York City, that all of nature is set up to be optimizing the things that are possible. So if you think about a ray of sunshine that hits that leaf and recognize that currently plants are able to photosynthesize at efficiencies around 90 to 95%, that far outstrips anything that we're able to do with our current computer systems and certainly with any of our photovoltaic cell processes. And so those plants are basically, and this has been absolutely proven by scientists at MIT, Seth Lloyd and his group, proved that plants are doing what's known as a quantum random walk. And so they're able to maximize these quantum capabilities and bring it into this macroscopic world. So that's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the amazing absolute truth that we can choose between a number of possibilities, a number of realities all the time. And we can be just like those plants. So it's not really about the law of attraction where you're pulling things to you, because that means that you're the physical body. I'm not saying that at all. What I'm saying is you are the consciousness. You are that energy. And you are surfing through all these realities, choosing which one you'd like to occupy. It's a little bit of a different spin on it.
Sure, and you sent us a graphic of the concept of the multiverse, and we've got it here. It's this giant bubble where there's all these possibilities. And if all of us are making decisions every day, tons and tons of decisions, we're talking zillions upon trillions of multiverses all around us. And you're saying we can move freely between them. If you made the wrong choice in life, you can get a do-over. Or, I mean, can you skip to where you don't have the horrible breakup, or the job that went terribly wrong?
Well, if you're a yogi master, perhaps that's possible. And I do get lots of people writing to me with that very question, especially if they feel like they've made a mistake, they want to go back and do a do-over. I think it is possible, actually, but most of us aren't at that level of mastery. We haven't done that level of meditation. I've done some things such as removed injuries and so forth, and I've worked with people who have had broken bones, and I write about it in my book, Quantum Jumps, that they can go to a reality where that bone is no longer broken. So I know these things are doable. But usually we pretty much play from the sand trap that we ended up in, if you will. So you need to play it where it lies, usually, unless you've attained a tremendous degree of meditation mastery.
Right.
And most people haven't. So
that would include us. We haven't mastered that at all. But well, so let's start at the beginning. What were 3 steps involved in making a quantum jump? What would be those 3 steps?
Okay, step 1, you need to get to that altered state of consciousness. So that really is that meditation. If you've got a meditation CD, or if you just close your eyes and clear your mind for a few moments, that totally counts. The second thing is you need to really visualize this new reality, what you'd like it to be. And in the field of sports and athletics, this is very commonly understood by Olympic gold medal winners. And you don't want to picture yourself with the gold medal. A lot of people make this mistake. They picture themselves like, oh, I've got the $5 million, I've got the gold medal. What you need to picture instead is what you are doing to get there. You need to picture what it is that you really believe that you are capable of that gets you that $5 million, that gets you that gold medal. So you need to see yourself doing the actions that makes that possible. And then the third step is go ahead and start doing those things. We were talking about the embodied cognition, faking it till you make it, doing those power poses, for example. Those are some examples, but my book is just full of dozens of different ways that you can make small quantum jump starts and see yourself moving forward steadily toward whatever goal you might have in mind.
And that's the thing, isn't it? I mean, the goals we have, whether it's to lose weight, be more successful,
win an Emmy.
Win an Emmy, right? That wouldn't be bad. All of those things. But I think the work is the part that so many people want to skip.
Yeah.
I'd like to see myself, finishing the marathon in record time, but all that running in between now and the marathon.
They don't want the work, just the reward.
Yeah. And we live in a society that wants so much instant gratification. And when you're a life coach too, how do you teach people the work still has to be done?
Well, what I like to do is teach people that it's a matter of alignment between what your head, your heart, and your lower power parts of you have going on all together. And I see so often that people have one idea in mind, like, I just want the money now. And their heart really isn't in it. That's a disconnect right there. So you need to line things up so your heart is fully involved and you have a passion for doing what you need to do. So it's really what you're doing, how you're feeling, and what you're thinking all is one. And that's very much most of what I do with my clients, is help them integrate and kind of line that up so that they can move together all in one beautiful movement forward without tripping themselves up.
Right.
Avoid the Snooki syndrome.
Right. Thank you, Snooki. And so when you're doing this, when you're living this life where it's and it seems to be a real constant for you, where you're moving in a positive direction. Now, I've heard you describe an experience where you've actually bilocated is one term we've used. Doppelganger is another term we've used. We are a paranormal show and love that stuff. Tell us what happened when you were seen somewhere where you were not.
It's happened a couple of times that were really believable to me because the people reporting it gave me all the details describing it. So from my point of view, what it felt like is I'm daydreaming. One time that it happened, I just didn't want to get out of bed. My 2 young daughters, I needed to go wake them up so they could be on time for school. But there was some part of me that thought, oh, brother, I don't want to get up. It would be nice if they just wake themselves up. But I kind of imagined that there I am walking down the hall. I'm opening their door. I'm opening their window shade, and they're too small to open it. I turn on their light, and I say good morning. Anyway, the next thing I know, there's a pitter-patter of little feet running to my room, and they're saying, Mommy, Mommy, where did you go? Why are you getting back in bed? And I said, what do you mean? Was I in your room? And they said I was. And they said that I'd opened the window shade, and I'd flicked on the light. And so I went to their room, and sure enough, the window shade was open. That's impossible for them to have opened. The light was on, and obviously I had bilocated. And the second time, I was daydreaming. I was just working at a book event. It was a beautiful day outside. I could see outside how pretty it was, and I wished I was able to just enjoy that day, walk down my favorite little shopping street. And I had a witness see me walking down that shopping street on that beautiful day. But she wrote to me because she said, I thought you were at this book event in a different city, but I could have sworn I saw you. I know I saw you. And I said, what time was that? And she told me, and it was exactly when I was daydreaming that I was walking down that street. So I know I've bilocated at least twice, probably a lot more than that.
Wow.
We've talked to people that have
Yes.
had, doppelganger is a word that
Right.
that people often use when you're in our paranormal circles, where you've seen the double of someone who's alive. It's,
Right.
it's the ghost of a living person.
I've had a couple of people tell me these personal stories. It's amazing.
And have you ever experienced anything like this, Andrew, where you felt like you've bilocated, or you've actually been able to project yourself somewhere else?
No, I can say I don't think I've ever had a rock solid moment of it. Had a few moments of deja vu that were really strong, but not I was somewhere else.
Matt in the engine room, go ahead. Let's hear it, Matt.
Actually, back when I was a teenager in high school, I did not want to be in a particular class I was in. And I wanted to be in a friend's class, and I was actually physically marked present in the class at that particular time.
For skipping French class.
It's the French.
No, I took many years of French.
Deja vu.
Yeah, deja vu. Thank you very much. No, it's amazing. You know, when you look at how the subtleties of the world around us, and Cynthia, I've heard you talk about how we're entering the quantum age, and if you think about how popular the subject is, you know, what does it mean to be living now and stepping forward into this new quantum age?
Excellent question. It means we're going to start hearing about alternate histories and alternate realities. It means you'll be talking with your friends and your family and telling a familiar story to you about something you thought everybody remembered, and they're going to disagree with you. They're going to tell you that's not the way it happened. And you're going to see more and more of this sort of thing happening, as well as recognizing that people can benefit from the placebo effect and get well instantly, like my friend who had the broken leg. So when we say welcome to the quantum age, this is the age of not just true and false, but this wonderful superposition of states where things are true and false and not true, not false. So it's kind of like coming together of many worlds all in one.
I'm pretty sure Schrodinger's cat just jumped out of the box somewhere in that last sentence and said, "I'm alive and dead.
Yeah.
Deal with it."
Meow.
And I know you talk about Schrodinger in your book, Quantum Jumps. You know, the groundwork's been laid now for, over a century, you know. And I think it comes, you know, we talk about popular culture. I mentioned What the Bleep Do We Know? Cosmos, of course, back on. We're talking about these subjects now, and science is giving us explanations for things that we just never dreamed of before. And I'm curious, we only have a few seconds left. We are ghostly guys, paranormal guys. Do you think this relates at all to the ghost experience, where people are seeing scenes and people from the past in the present?
I think it does, actually. I think we'll be seeing some scientific explanations for a lot of these things. And that's one of the reasons I love staying current with what's happening with this new field of quantum biology. Now we have quantum astronomy. I'm pretty sure we'll be getting a lot better idea of what's going on when these areas that you might think of as pure consciousness start manifesting physically. And so there will be a lot more to say about that in some field of science. I'm not sure which one, but definitely we'll be seeing a lot more about that.
Yeah, we love it. And these concepts are great. The discussion's so important, you know, and I think that's the biggest part of it, is that, you know, so many fields of science operate in silos.
Yep.
And finally, when you start having some cooperation, and then you take into account things like consciousness, you know, physicists were noticing just being in the room can affect the outcome of an experiment. So,
that's right.
Of course, that's huge, right? I mean, that sums it up right there, doesn't it? We're involved. We're part of the experiment. Cynthia, it was so great to have you here. Cynthia Sue Larson is our guest. The name of the book is Quantum Jumps, An Extraordinary Science of Happiness and Prosperity. We'll, of course, have links to her website from ours, and we appreciate you joining us tonight on 30 Odd Minutes aboard the Mothership. And to all of you folks at home, stay odd.